Welcome back to another video on Gearsaw Studios, and today I'm going to be showing you how to build yourself a military helicopter. So that way, anytime you're just wandering your military base and suddenly you see a reason why you might need a helicopter, well, you're always prepared. So, please like and subscribe, and without further ado, onto the tutorial. For our palette though, we're going to need a lot of different blocks. Fortunately, the majority of them are contrived completely from concrete, which means get yourself some sand and gravel, a couple of dyes, and you have most of the ingredients. The only things that you'll need to go elsewhere for are some woods. You're going to need spruce, sea lanterns, go raid a monument, or you could just sneak in, hope you don't get mining fatigue, and drink an invisibility potion and take off all your armor. And you need to go to the nether. That part's relatively easy. And because the low amount of terracotta we're using, you can simply go to a riverbed or a wash cave, pick up some clay, smelt it, and dye it green. And that part's done. Of course, we're going to be using other blocks like glass, but those are pretty much given. Then, find yourself a flat area, and then you want to place down a piece of yellow concrete. It needs to be decently far from any other structures. If you build it too close to another thing, then you have an issue. But about 21 blocks in any direction, well, any ordinal direction, will be okay. So check around the area, and if it's all flat, then you've done good. From here, you just make a plus a little bit larger. Make sure that the center is detached, and then on the very center block, build a 17 by 17 circle surrounding it out of red concrete. I provided a circle generator in the description below, so that way your job is made easier. Now we have the inner circle here, red concrete on the outside, filled in with black concrete on the inside, and we have an alternative yellow symbol in the center. The symbol doesn't matter, I just advise against an H because you cannot center it properly if you have an odd number of blocks. And no, that's not a reason to make it an even amount. Even amounts of blocks typically do not result in good builds. But our next step is we need to make an alternative circle outside called the safety zone, in case minor imprecisions and such do not hurt nearby objects or people when the helicopter ends up landing. There should be 5 blocks between the red circle and the gray circle, and that inner area should be filled in with light gray concrete. Either way, you just need to build a simple 29 by 29 circle, and then that part will be done, and we're almost ready to build the helicopter itself. With the second circle now in place, we can now safely add lighting to this. And this part is pretty simple, but can get complicated quick if you don't know what you're doing. I recommend placing 8 sea lanterns on the inner circle, one at each point of the circle, and you need to check frequently at night. If you're in survival, maybe even build this at night and just deal with the mobs. And for reference, here's what it looks like at night, and we can see that's properly lit up. Now we just need to integrate them, surround them in more red concrete, like this, and although it's no longer a circle completely, if you do this enough and smooth out the rough edges, then you'll have properly lit up area. Or, if you have a lot of sea lanterns and don't want to deal with that, you can just dig a trench on the safety zone, fill it completely with sea lanterns, and then you need to line it with glass, because, it just looks better that way. And this alternative method, I think, looks better. But if you don't have enough sea lanterns, the inner method still works. You could even use both of them if you want the extra light. By doing the exterior circle lighting only, we can see that we have enough light for the build, when combined with replacing the center of the plus with a sea lantern. Although this is pretty costly and would probably require getting a guardian farm, I would say this is the most effective and pretty solution. Then, go in the middle, place down 2 kind of weird looking staircases, and then some green concrete or terracotta, one block above so that way the sea lantern is not covered. This is going to be the start of our helicopter, and this will be the open part where people stand before, landing. Since I've never built a military helicopter before, I've gone ahead and built the whole thing. And yes, I'm still going to teach you how to do it, but we need to look at a model of it first. And we can notice a couple of key things. One, a propeller angles downward, and we need to keep that in mind when building this. Go to your center of mass, or when you built your little stilts here to get in, the very center block should have your propeller. Then, of course, use a ton of blackstone and add some decorations on the interior, because we need to have some things that look like they could fly a helicopter in the constraints of Minecraft. Red concrete with a lever on top to look like a gas can. Then we have basalt surrounded by spruce trapdoors to look like ammo. And we also have a tail propeller. Now this is a lot to take in, but I will go through step by step. And here's a model of it in the air. You may notice that I am using some of our green terracotta to texture it kind of like camo, and I'm only doing lines on it. Not randomly, just lines on it. So that way there's a little bit more uniformity to it. Now, here's a step-by-step on how to build the helicopter itself. And I'm going to skip a couple of small steps and just combine them into larger things in order to make this go faster. First, we have the little step-up thing, 2.5 block tall entrances if you're confused, and you should have a gap here if you did it right, which means you do have to jump to get in. Then, look at your ceiling, and you want to have a stair going up and then a flat part here. And then extend that on either direction as you expand it left and right. Then the immediate next block towards the front needs to be a stair, a slab, and then an opposite facing stair with 2 gray concretes with stone buttons on them. These are our wheels, so that way this thing can actually be on the ground. And then you can start getting small things in, such as the sides here, and of course encase those in more blackstone. And then we can start getting some of the more advanced things like the cockpit in, and if you do the same thing on the back, we can go for the tail wing too. As you start getting more blackstone in, you can start making the shape of the front. And zooming in on this model right here, you can see that we go 3 blocks here, then 1.5 here, and then the front protrudes a little, with these little gray concrete and red concrete things supposed to be missiles. We'll build some in the sky later. But as you're doing this, you want to experiment with your own designs, since if you copy me, then how are new builds supposed to be made if everyone, follows the same person? Because if everyone copied me exactly how I do this, then if I make a mistake, everyone has a mistake. So add some variance to your builds. If you think I did something weird, then don't do what I did unless I say otherwise to do so. And we can see this build is really starting to come together, since we have the front here, and we can start adding the green concrete. And of course, a lot of this is going to become blackstone, but each time you place a block, you add a little bit more to the build, and getting those blocks down is more important than making them correct initially. With all the little details being added to the front, we can see that once we move to the back, little interior view here, pause the video if need be, we need to slowly shrink the size of this in order to accommodate for the tail. And a pretty easy way to do this is to only do the top and then only do the bottom and then accommodate from there. Or you can use, a little bit of shape identification, because if you look at the shape in a certain way, you'll notice little patterns, and then you can place down the small details like that. We need 1 wheel in the back, by the way, like this. And then going over to this model here, moving back and forth a lot, we just want to go down and then we go back up, and then we make this triangular shape, and then we can connect to the rest of it. If it's easier for you, you can try from the bottom first, and I do recommend building this in creative mode first, since this is a pretty tough model to nail down. But as you do it, 3 blocks out, then we can start building the tail, and we can see every time we place a little block, it gets a little bit more complete. And although it's small steps, it's how we get a build done. So as you keep doing it, you get closer and closer to completion. Even if you're struggling a bit, still, I'm just going to look at the tail, pause the video, and use this to help you. Because if you really are having trouble with this, it's fine to copy my builds. I just want to encourage you to customize it to how you want it to be. Now, we fill out the small details here, some stairs, just slowly going backwards, make the small changes as need be, and then we want to have 3 blocks visible here, although that can change if you want. And then, once we have our tail ready, we want to place down a stair, and then an opposite stair here, and then extend them in a staircase fashion on either side by 3 blocks. And we can see our tail rotor is done, which means this helicopter is very close to done. To finish the helicopter, what you do is you grab your smooth stone slabs, and starting from here, double slab, and when you do that on all 4 sides, you go down half a block, and then 1 to the side, repeat the same thing, and then now that we're another 3, do 2, and then repeat this rotor on all 4 sides. After that, you go on the interior, dark oak, and place down a lever or 2, some buttons, and then your helicopter is done. Although that's not the end of the build. There's still more to add even after your helicopter is done. I almost forgot this final small detail. We can texture this thing. And although you could just change the color completely or, make some on sign, a flag on it, something like that, I recommend adding some green terracotta in long strands like this. Although they're not that long, they're space constraints, so you can only do so much with it. If you have a consistent pattern with them, then it will look like some advanced markings or something like camouflage, and it breaks up the build a little. Don't forget to look from the bottom when doing this. And then your helicopter is really complete. Of course, with the interior details added. From here, the final thing we need to do for the rest of the build is add some red concrete into the sky. Place down a couple of red concrete blocks, and then we'll turn those into missiles. If you have a swarm of military helicopters midair, I recommend adding some missiles around them. They're pretty easy to build, since the fire trails are small because the missiles are small, which means all you have to do is 1 red concrete, 2 gray concrete, at the end, a white one, then white, yellow, orange, red stained glass. Surround the white part in dark oak trapdoors, since your only other option is spruce unless you want a very wide missile. And then do that for the rest of them. Once you have enough of them, then you have a nice little missile swarm, a bunch of helicopters, and just an otherwise cool environment. If you want, you could potentially try building a massive structure or some opposing helicopters, even a giant robot if you want. And yes, I could make a giant robot tutorial, but I wouldn't expect it anytime soon. But just add your missiles around, and then you'll be done with your build. Now we can see the build is complete, a bunch of missiles flying from the flying helicopters, and we have one docked at a helipad here. And it looks really nice. If you have something that you want to war on, such as a giant robot or a dumb looking mountain or anything like that, you can build these. If you just have a military establishment, build the ground part. If you just want to build everything that I do on my channel, go right ahead. I like when you watch my videos, but still. This serves a lot of niches, and I'd recommend building it for a variety of different scenarios, especially since once you build one of these, it gets significantly easier to build the rest of them. And hopefully you won't need to watch this video every single time you want to build another. And with that, it's the end of today's video. If you enjoyed this video, remember, please like and subscribe, it really helps me out. And thanks for the person who suggested this building prompt. I hope you enjoy this video. Either way, enjoy the rest of your day. When inside the cockpit, do not say I have the greatest plan. Worst mistake of my life. Gearsaw